Hello, everybody. Welcome to Antwalk Masterclass. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. For the first couple of minutes, there are people coming in. So the only request is, while most of you have already followed that, kindly keep yourself muted, and you can switch on your videos. It's good to interact with people with the videos on. So if you are in a position where you can turn on the videos, you're more than welcome to. Kindly keep your microphones muted because noises coming from multiple sources, it's not good for a digital interaction like this. So yes, I again welcome all of you to this masterclass arranged by Antwalk. It will be around content marketing. All your questions related to content marketing, you can have it answered through our expert, Mr. Sujoy Ray. He's in the room. So, uh, you know, so without wasting much time, uh, I'll go walk you through the agenda of the day. So it's a very open session that we plan to have. So you can ask your questions. You can put it in your chat in the chat window. You guys can put it to me. I can ask those questions to Mr. Sujoy. So I'll first introduce the speaker. We'll see what is the role of content marketing in this entire digital marketing space, how it has evolved, and what are the new trends, the tactics, and how do you adapt that. How do content marketing and social responsibility, they go hand in hand. And we'll also see one of the reasons why content trends shift, because the way the world that we live in, nothing is permanent. The technology changes at such a rapid pace. And also, how do you measure the content marketing ROI? All right. Apart from that, we will take all the questions that you might have. So we'll seed the conversation with a few questions from our side, but I want it to be interactive. You can raise your hand. So the rule of the room is, you put your question in the chat window. Okay. uh, I can ask Sujoy directly your question, or I can request you to unmute yourself and ask the question. So you can also ask the questions directly to Sujoy. But most of at the other times, you're requested to keep your microphones muted, right? So we can all listen properly. So it's a very so without wasting any more time, I'll welcome Sujoy. Hi, Sujoy. How are you? Sujoy, can you hear
Hello.
me?
Yeah, hi. Hi, I can hear you.
Yes. So, are you in a
I hope
position to switch on your camera, or because we can't see you? So,
I'm just checking. I hope so. It should
yes,
be
you are.
there.
Yes, you are visible now. Yes, you are. Okay. Awesome.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
So nice to have you, Sujoy. And so I'll quickly introduce Sujoy. Sujoy is a veteran of uh, close to 15 years of experience in digital marketing, brand and media strategy. Over years, he has worked in multiple domains like FMCG, media, telecom, across the APAC region. You know, he has worked in iconic campaigns as a brand manager for Airtel and Digital TV. While at Star Sports, he was one of the integral members that launched the Pro Kabaddi League and Indian Super League in the country. Uh, his current role is part of Mindshare Philippines, and he leads the media portfolio strategy for Geo and Oral Care at Unilever Philippines. And he's passionate about. Just give me a moment. I went wrong. Okay. So he's passionate about content. He's passionate about digital, data-driven marketing. So Sujoy, so glad to have you. Welcome to Antwalk Masterclass.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Really looking forward to this session, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to probably interact with so many people. It's a lovely Monday morning, and looking forward to this session.
Yes, yes. So yeah, for Antwork's identity depends on the professional network that we have, people who come and share their knowledge with people who are seeking knowledge. So, it is a platform. Yeah, I understand there is some echo, but we'll fix it. We'll fix it. Yogesh and Pradeep, there is some noise coming. So what I'll do is, while Sujoy speaks, I will mute myself so that you guys don't get that echo. All right. So I will definitely try to get that fixed. And what I will do is, we don't need the presentation. Let it be a more open interaction. So I feel I will have, we'll have Sujoy and me will have a conversation. We don't need the slides, right? So Sujoy, why? Let's start with the experience that you have had, and your, why is content marketing, and why is content the center of anything digital, and what is your experience been over the last 15 years?
I would say it's been a tremendous 15 years of journey, which I've been fortunate enough to go through. And during the course, I have been like working with some of the top organizations, some top brands in India, and also now in my current role, I'm kind of managing a lot of brands in the Philippines market. So it's been a roller coaster ride, I would say, because my journey, when it started around 2006, probably digital marketing was in its nascent stage, and like it was nowhere close to where it is today. And when I'm talking about content marketing also as a domain, it was again very much there, but probably was done in a very, very different avatar. And like I've been fortunate enough to see that entire paradigm shift over the years. And I think that has been the best part about my journey, because not only I got to work with some big brands, some iconic campaigns, but also, as I would say, is that I'm like a perpetual student of digital marketing. And like still after 15 years, I think every day I end up learning something new. And that has been the case for me. But yeah, I think the way things have evolved, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, I think that has made the landscape very interesting. And that is something which will be key for all the young managers who want to take digital marketing as a career, or any students who want to actually learn digital marketing. I think this is probably the time. Like I always used to think that when 15 years back I started learning digital marketing, that was the time. But I think this is the time. Like this is the time when you get onto this bus, and then like you go for that fun ride. So yeah, I think that's there. Yeah.
Great, great. So I hope the audio issue has been resolved. I hope you guys are able to hear us properly. So you can, on the reaction, you can put a yes. I think there's an echo whenever I speak. So I just tested that out. So what we will do as a practice is, whenever Sujoy speaks, I will keep myself muted so that we don't get the echo from both ends. All right. Now that the audio is fixed, we can go ahead. So Sujoy, no, of course, the digital marketing, the last 15 years. When you and I started our careers, I started it in 2007, right? Digital marketing was limited to some kind of pop marketing and other things. There was more focus on the BTL, and SEO was slowly coming up, but it was more about keywords density rather than anything else. Now it has all evolved, right? So the content at the center of your digital presence, how have you seen this grow?
I think content was always at the center, and on that note, I will probably use that same cliche: is the content is the king. It was always, it is, and it will always be the king, because no matter what you end up doing as a brand, to do any kind of storytelling, content will always be at the heart. Why so? Because at the end of the day, whichever kind of marketing you want to look at, the essence of the story is that content is there at the center. And whatever you are doing with that content, and when I'm saying whatever you are doing, it's basically the story you are crafting, because everybody loves a story. It's a story from a rags to riches story, or it's a story about how somebody overcomes, or it's a story about how probably somebody has become relevant. So all these things, even for a brand also, becomes very important, and it's all about doing that story. Now if you go back somewhere around 2000, early 2000s, uh, content was primarily text based. So it was all about websites, blogs, web pages, and all. So as you mentioned, it was all primarily related to all those keyword density, because that is how the Google code used to parse the pages, and then that's how your results used to show up. And those were the early days of SEOs. I think SEO principles have evolved over the years, but more or less the basics still remains the same. But now what the shift has happened is that now it is no longer a text based thing where it's just about you reading web pages. It has transformed into a lot of formats. So whether it is like an infographic or a slideshow or a case study or ebook, or maybe a video or something like a live session or a webinar, which we are doing right now, or one of the new trends which is nowadays very very popular in India is about podcasts, because audio is on the rise. So all these kind of formats have kind of come together in the last 3-4 years, and has made this entire content marketing space very interesting, because now it is not about just one format of content, but it is about how a brand is doing the storytelling across multiple formats. And that is probably in one hand is a challenge also for the brands, but at the same point of time it opens up a lot of avenues for digital marketers to actually test, learn, and probably scale. And that should be the mantra in my opinion.
Right. So one of the things that very upcoming people, when we talk about storytelling, one of the very crisp, impactful storytelling these days is the memes, where you try to tell story in possibly the shortest time, right? In a single frame, you try to tell stories, right? So if we talk about memes, specifically, how do marketers use memes in content marketing, and what are the absolute no-nos while doing? What are the do's and don'ts when it comes to memes? And what I would request audience is that, while I am asking questions, you guys, if you have any questions, please start putting in the chat window so that I can start asking Sujoy your questions, right? And when your turn comes, I'll request you to unmute yourself and ask the questions yourself. So you can put it in the chat window while we are having this conversation. So yes, Sujoy. So we're talking about memes and what are the do's and don'ts for content through memes.
Okay, thanks for asking that question. I think like that's one of the hot topics also nowadays being discussed, and it has become a challenge for every marketers to actually come up with maybe a meme strategy for a particular brand. But I think before I probably give my point of view there, I'll probably try to take a step back and just spend a couple of minutes about the content marketing piece, because see, it's very important for us to understand is what is content marketing. And if you look at the basic definition of content marketing, it is all about probably creating and distributing relevant and valuable content uh, for your target group. And that is the whole idea, is that once you create and you distribute, you just want that content to be seamlessly be part of your marketing promotion. And it shouldn't be sounding or looking too adsy, I would say, because that is the whole idea of content marketing, is that because otherwise it becomes an ad. And the major differentiation is about you doing something which is very seamless, which is very not on your face. And when you look content marketing from that lens, and that's when you again go back and see, okay, if I have a meme marketing strategy, what is I need to do? I think from there a lot of your questions can be answered, because it's something which you need to do on a regular basis if you are a brand which believes in that meme marketing strategy. But if it doesn't go in line with your entire brand objective, business objective, and your content marketing objective, I think that is where you need to relook at. And if you ask me personally, I see meme marketing as kind of a booster shot to your content marketing strategy. So it can't be a meme marketing led strategy for your content marketing, but it is just a booster shot which you will do keeping in mind the whatever is the relevant in the market, whatever is the ongoing topic which people are talking about. But the biggest thing, I think a lot of brands probably miss that is whatever you do with meme marketing, it has to go with the tonality of your brand, because otherwise you are going to alienate your audiences. You'll probably somehow come across as a me too brand, or just trying to be too hard and just try to be relevant to whatever is being discussed in the context of whatever is the most popular thing. And I think even before pushing out any content or creating something, I think first thing is which every brand should do is listen carefully what the consumers are saying. Even if it's a latest trend, you need to listen carefully, because till the time you don't understand those nuances, you will not be able to create something which is one still original, because meme is just a format, or maybe a topic which you are riding on or leveraging on, but you need to have an original point of view on that. Not only an original point of view, there has to be a brand point of view on that. And that is where you will make things interesting. And I go by the philosophy is that you listen carefully and you act tastefully, because otherwise, like, it will do more damage to your brand rather than like kind of creating that traction. And if you ask me some of the big no-nos, I think one is that sometimes brands just try too hard to be part of that trend. So my point is that if you have missed that bus, it's okay. The world doesn't end. There will be another trend which will come up, because these trends are like probably sometimes they are for a week, for a month. Hardly any trend you will see which will probably sustain for a quarter or a year. So that is something. If you have missed, it's okay. Just don't want to be like, okay, fine, probably the meme trend has ended 5 days back and you are trying to post a content which is probably leveraging that thing. So that's fine. And then second thing is a big and important one, is that try to see the topics very carefully, because if there are sensitive topic, if there are things which will probably affect the mood of the nation, avoid them. It's best to avoid rather than doing something which will land you in a trouble and will give you a lot of negative PR or backlash. So just be cognizant of the fact which is very sensitive, and also which is very, very relevant to the culture, to the country. So like, for example, like a lot of brands you might have seen in the past month or so talking about whatever is happening in the country, whether it is related to things which are related to sports and all, Olympics, or before that, it was all about how things were around the country which is related to COVID. At that point of time, a lot of brands actually went silent. I think that was one of the good strategy, if you ask me, because that is not the time probably when you'll come up and talk about. And third thing I would say, in any kind of meme marketing, I think you should have a maker checker thing, because what happens a lot of time is that either your creative partners or whosoever is a digital marketer, he gets married to the idea so much, is that sometimes he or she gets blindsided. And that's why there is this maker checker thing is very important, that internally you need to have a smaller team where you run past those content pieces and see, like, it's okay to post that thing 10 minutes late, 1 hour late, but it's better to ponder on that before you put it out. That's why that maker checker thing is very important. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it is about your brand identity and whether memes kind of gel seamlessly into the communication that you're trying to make, right? I have seen, as you're rightly saying, there are just to get on the bandwagon of what's latest trending, you cannot axe your own leg. So we should be very, very careful, and there are pitfalls of meme marketing. We ourselves had, we had a very enthusiastic team which used to do memes, and one of the things that went, it was slightly kind of a personal take on situation there. And as you said, you have to be the maker checker concept kind of makes it that it is aligned to your overall idea. Because if you're doing on an individual level, different people have different ideologies, they have different takes on different things, and that could be, it might not be in what core it might not be aligned to your communication style, right? So that is very important. And one of the things that I have seen is, it is not necessary that memes is not just a fad. For me, the original meme kings in advertising have to be an Amul. They have been doing it for the last 50 years consistently, and their take has been, it has become their brand voice. Their memes are, and they have taken their takes in a funny, in a sensitive way, on all the almost all relevant topics. They take their takes on, and relevant things as well. So it is not that meme needs to be, meme is not something that it is just come in now. It has been there. People have been using snapshots to tell their stories. So Arjun, you have a question. Why don't you would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question to Sujoy before we go forward?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Arjun, please go on.
Hi, Sujoy, sir. So my question was that so there are many like subcategories in digital marketing, right? So my question was that like what different do content marketers do as opposed to say like performance marketers, like media buying and media selling and stuff like that. So what is the difference in the roles there? That's it.
Thanks, Arjun. Thanks, Arjun. Thanks for the question. I think it's a good one. If you ask me, whether you look at a content marketer or a performance marketer, obviously sometimes some of the goals, immediate KPIs and goals might look a little different. But if you see the overall thing which probably a content marketer wants to achieve, can be bucketed into a couple of pillars, and that can be, one is the impact which the type of content is creating. So impact, whether it is in terms of brand saliency, whether it is in terms of brand recall, or some kind of brand association that content is able to do. Second is that big KPI which any content marketers probably look at is about the engagement which the content is able to drive. So how many number of people are actually watching that content, sharing that content, liking that content, or probably interacting with that content. That is also very, very important KPI for any content marketer, because that is how you develop the content pieces. And another KPI for, even for nowadays, which has now become very, very important for a content marketer, is the ROI, because at the end of the day, the marketing monies are very limited. So whatever you are creating or whatever you are doing, after a point needs to justify the return which probably that piece of content is giving. Because sometimes it might look like, okay, I haven't spent any money, it is just like I have got a small video or some infographic or something. But we need to realize that there is a certain amount of time which has gone behind it, and time is literally money. So even if it is about creating a meme which has taken a designer's hours time, is technically an investment. And at the same point of time, whatever you are then doing as part of putting it out on your social platforms or other own assets is an amount of investment. So if you have made that investment, is there a certain amount of return which you have got on it or not? So as a content marketer, you need to look into these kind of three pillars. When it comes to performance marketing, I think it is all about ROAS. Is like, I have spent X amount, how much top line I have managed to do. So that's how probably a lot of KPIs for a performance marketer will always be about the volume of sales that has been generated via any of those marketing initiatives. So it is your GMVs, your ROAS, that is where a performance marketer will look at. And when it comes to any media planning person, it is all about how efficiently and effectively you have planned your media. Because one portion of your marketing is about creating those great stories, creating those content pieces, and the other part is ensuring that those great pieces of content are going to the correct TG. So as a media planner, your job is to then figure out who is my bullseye TG, what are their affinities, which are the platforms they spend more time, and basis that you activate your plan in such a way so that not only you are effectively communicating your stories, your brand assets, but also you are driving it in a far efficient manner. When I'm saying efficiency, it is all about your the kind of CPMs and CTRs you are driving on your creative assets. I hope so, Arjun, I was able to answer your question.
He says, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so two things from a content perspective that I want to ask you. People are kind of obsessed with that. The first is creating something which is viral, and the second is user generated content, right? Uh, and both of it is that you can of course you can plan for it, but is that something that you should bank on? Is there a secret sauce to say possibly creating a viral content or something like that, or it's just a sustained effort over time which kind of brings audience to it?
I think the short answer to it is that there is no secret sauce, unfortunately. But having said that, doesn't mean that every viral campaign just happens out of its own. Every time any marketer wants to approach a campaign, there is a certain amount of thinking which goes behind that. And it also ties with the fact that how the brand wants to do the storytelling, what all probably those trigger points or pain points or those buttons they want to push to activate the audience, because obviously the effort is always around that. Yes, if it is being done tastefully, if it is being done consistently, that is when sometimes the magic happen. But consistency is the key. It can't be like that you'll think one day is that okay fine, I'll strategize for 2 months and then come up with a big campaign and that will become the biggest viral campaign of the year or of the decade. But it is about listening carefully to your consumers, adapting it, and probably iterating, because probably the first time you'll do a piece of content might not be that great, but over a period of time you will understand what your consumers want, what is there that probably brings a smile on their face, makes them share that piece of content, and then you iterate on it. And over a period of time, I think uh, the brand, even the way companies and brands should also be looking at viral content, is that it is not about that one big viral content. It is not about probably that one Colaveri tea which happened a decade back. It is about how you can be relevant and you are talkable throughout the years. And that is how I see as a viral content, and not just like one big fame and then you like again maybe the Gangnam Style, one Gangnam Style, and then probably nobody knows PSY now. So that is how I think viral content needs to be approached at. And I think careful listening and crafting, tweaking, and optimizing will probably help you reach someday to unlock that potential. Because trust me, 9 out of those 10 contents are just probably 10% below that threshold of becoming viral most of the times. You just need to figure out that last 10% to make it go viral.
What when I talk about viral content, the thing that comes to my mind is that a conversation that Salim Khan had about Sholay. He said that we wrote really good dialogues, saying that thinking that they would be viral, but what actual dialogues that went really viral and people start loving them, it was the simple one liners that they made. Tera naam kya hai Basanti. It's like now nobody can say that when you say that this kind of simple things, or one line that Shamba said, it became viral. So it is a lot of audience connect, and it is about, of course, it's a lot of good writing, a lot of content that you put a lot of thought, and of course there's no secret thought. If, even what Salim Khan would have thought, what are the things that people would love the most about Sholay. But Sholay is a movie that we all love, so that is about virality that just came to my mind. And we have I have another question around user you we talk a lot spoke a lot about listening to the customers, what your customers want, and that has to be integral to your content, your strategy. So how do content marketing and also social responsibility go in hand? So do content marketers should be socially responsible of what they are putting out there? What is it that their consumers are consuming as well? Do you have that mix, or should you be cognizant of your social image as well?
If you ask me, the short answer to it is yes. Why? Because I think whether it is about content marketing, whether it is about marketing, or whether it is about just your organization objective, I think social responsibility plays a very, very important role. And there is no doubt about it. The way any brand or business needs to drive their marketing objective or just a content marketing objective needs to be socially responsible. And now, if you ask me, I think we are fortunate enough to be in a time where the youngest generation, which we call the Gen Zs, I think they are the heart of driving anything socially responsible. And when I'm saying something like this, I might sound a little old on that, but I think today's generation is the most woke. Every generation feels that they are probably the best, or probably better than their older generations. But uh, I think the Gen Zs and even the millennials of the world today, I think they are the most woke. They understand their social responsibilities. They are the ones who can rally people around for a cause. They are the ones who can be like driven for an objective. So everybody has a purpose. So gone are the days when people used to think, okay, fine, after my education, what will I do? Okay, I might have to get this stream, that stream. I think today's world and today's generation is well aware about what they want to do, how they want to do. So if your young TG, your Gen Zs and millennials, they are thinking in that line of being responsible and being socially responsible, I think brands have even a far bigger, I would say, task to be socially responsible. And when it comes to content marketing, I think content marketing itself is a way to give it back to the society in terms of what you are offering as a piece of content, and it all defines your brand. So for example, if you are a fitness brand and the kind of content you have created is about probably making people realize how in these tough times somebody can follow a certain regime and be fit while only by sitting at their homes. So that is the kind of thing probably you can drive, and this is another way of being socially responsible. Or when you are saying that, okay, fine, I am as a brand, I want to drive sustainability. I am talking about things about lesser wastage or less plastic or lesser pollution. So as a brand also, first it needs to look into your actions, because what are the kind of steps you have taken. But at the same point of time, it is also important to create content around that and do that story, so that more and more people might be aware. Because what happens sometimes is that there are a lot of brands who are doing fantastic initiatives, but those are not being probably getting marketed enough. So content again plays a very key role, because a small YouTube video which talks about a very small initiative which a brand might have done in some corner of the country, either to probably provide food to the needy, or provide medicines, or just provide some amount of initiative which is about mindfulness, or about any kind of thing which is probably helping people do away with their stress. All those pieces need to come across via the content marketing initiative. And I think what happens is that if you are a socially responsible marketer, you automatically engages with the consumers, because consumers are very much aware. They are woke. Gone are the days like you will go ahead and advertise something and you go away with that. Like people have this ability to see through you now. So that's where the content plays a role. And the last part is that if you are a brand who's been doing this thing transparently, you will be able to build that trust and loyalty with your consumers. So I think that is where the responsibility of content marketing comes into the picture, and that is where content marketing and social responsibility kind of meets together, and that's where the magic happens.
Talking about Gen Zs, one thing that has caught everybody's fancy nowadays is podcast. You also spoke about it in the beginning. So suddenly it is everybody wants to do podcasts. So how does a person integrate podcasts into your content strategy in this, quickly getting saturated market? How do you possibly stand out?
Uh, See, if you ask me, voice, especially in India, is increasing rapidly. And when I'm saying voice, it is when it comes to voice, it is about voice searches, which is happening on Google, or probably consumers who are listening to voice-enabled content. And thanks to this entire data revolution, which happened 5 years back, courtesy Geo, now people have access to a lot of free data, a lot of cheap data, and this new behavior, I would say, of multitasking. Because what earlier used to happen is that once people got access to data, they were consuming a lot of content. Now that content was primarily in the video format, or any form of infographic and all, and a lot of consumption happened. Now what has happened in the last 4 5 years, consumers have also evolved, and now there are so many things to do in life, is that they are multitasking. And when they are multitasking, probably all of their senses can't be focused on a screen. So that is where the magic is happening in the entire podcast and audio, where probably it's like you are listening to something, you are grasping something, and at the same point of time, you're finishing your work. You might be finishing your workout, or you might be finishing your walk, or you might be cooking or something, but at least you are listening to audio. I think that multitasking behavior and this entire data has pushed this thing. Now, when it comes back to a podcast on an audio related strategy, I think the first question the brand needs to ask is what is in it for the consumers, for them to subscribe to a content piece, or a content format which is a very audio led thing. Because trust me, when it comes to a video content, the difficulty level is a little lesser than when it comes to an audio content, because the audio content needs to be very, very good and engaging, because you are just touching one sense, which is your hearing sense. So one is that how you are integrating in it in your entire brand and content initiative, how audio plays a role. Because trust me, not every brand will find a play there. So if you say, intuitively I can say, if you are a fashion focused brand, like if you are an apparel and fashion brands, your first thing is to probably address to your TG visually. So probably an audio led strategy might not be the best. I won't say it is impossible to figure out an audio led strategy for a fashion brand, but it will always work when it's visual. So if whosoever you a brand you are, first thing you need to see how audio fits into this. Then second is that you need to choose the correct platform, because audio platforms are also evolving. So like you'll have the Spotify's of the world, who is now probably coming up and giving options to original content creators. And then you can leverage on those tools to probably set up your audio podcast and all. So I think choosing the right platform and choosing the brand narrative will be the key. It is still early days, if you ask me, because yes, a lot of players have suddenly emerged up. It is just like the way 3 4 years back a lot of OTT players emerged. So it was all about figuring out what is the correct content for those OTT players to create the right pull. I think the same thing is actually happening right now, where a lot of OTT like audio players are emerging. So as a brand, it becomes very important to choose carefully one or two platforms where you want to probably test and learn. If you ask me, I don't have a sure shot answer for this, where I can say that, okay, fine, go ahead and activate it on platform A and B, because it is still early days. We will have to test and see how the traction on these platforms gets developed, because uh, till the time that traction is not there at a overall platform level, you will not be able to reach the critical mass to create that impact, because producing audio content is again a costly affair. So we need to be cognizant of that fact.
Right, right. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience. We have questions from Aisha, Sai, and Arjun again. It's time for the first poll of the day. We'll quickly take a poll, and I will while you take the poll, I will ask Aisha's question. So Aisha wants to know more about the role of digital marketing for a B2B category or a brand.
Thanks, Aisha. Thanks for the question. I think for B2B marketing companies, digital marketing plays a very, very important role, plainly because of the fact that the target audience which any B2B company is addressing is very niche. Most of the time, it's very niche. And the thing which you need to do via content marketing is probably to focus on the that mid funnel part, which is more about the consideration, because uh, most of the times whosoever your B2B audience is will be more or less aware about their needs, what they want as a solution. They will be aware about what all are the options which are there in the market, because uh, most of the time the top 3 4 players are very much in the market with their offerings and all. So if you are in that B2B domain and you might not be, you if you are not a big player, then content marketing plays a very important role, where you can probably drive that entire consideration part of it, because people who are searching about a certain product offering, they have a certain mindset. So you need to tackle that mindset by creating relevant pieces of content. And when I'm saying content marketing, a lot of things like where you are preparing those case studies, where you are preparing a lot of those videos and how to's and everything, that helps as a B2B marketer. And then you can organize a lot of these webinars, symposiums. These are again part of your entire content marketing initiative, which you can drive. And that is something that will be key for any B2B brand to go forward.
Okay. Hi, Sujoy. Aisha here. So that was very helpful. Just, I wanted to know also more about, in case of B2C brands, it's pretty simple, social media campaign and influencer marketing, a lot of things that you can do. But, in terms of B2B brands, like it could be a retailer, it could be a salon, you know, uh, uh, it's not so easy to do a Facebook campaign, and usually they don't put out their professions there, and, that might not work. So what are the channels and in terms of media also where you can tap? And if you could tell me more about like is the YouTube marketing, and what all, where all can you capture this audience? And if you can just let me know a little bit more about how to really use digital marketing and reach these audiences, and what is the kind of, in terms of media also, what should we look at? And
Just a quick question. When you are saying B2B marketing and you mentioned about small businesses, so are you saying that how small businesses are using these platforms to activate their campaign? Do you
yes,
mean
yes,
those small
yes.
business?
Yeah. So, what are the
Okay.
right platforms, firstly? And, content, I think you more or less explained. It has to be specific to the target audience, or, the B2B person you're targeting. But if you could tell me more about the media mix and how really to, catch them, and what are the right platforms for these brands?
I think there are a couple of platforms which you can definitely start off with, and that will be a no-brainer for everybody. Obviously, the nuances will come depending on what exactly the sector or segment you operate. So the basics, at least you need to start with, will be a Facebook and YouTube. And if it's a very niche platform, which is maybe about a very specific SaaS software solution, then LinkedIn can become a big platform. But I think these can be the big three for you to start with, primarily because of the fact that they have a massive reach in the country. And this is, I'm only talking about India as a market. So the reach will be there. And to your question about what needs to be done and like, do you need professional help to do that? I think a lot of these platforms provide this self-serve options. So even if you are a single person entrepreneur who is driving a business, these platforms, YouTube, Facebook, they are pretty intuitive in terms of the kind of campaigns you can run. And the beauty is that there are a lot of courses which probably a Facebook or YouTube is already running to teach you the basics of activating a campaign on Facebook or a YouTube. So a Facebook blueprint is one of the courses which you can probably do, that will help you understand how to activate a campaign and manage a campaign. Similarly, on Google, you can do Google AdWords training. You can do all those certifications. There is a fantastic course on Google, which is about fundamentals of digital marketing, which will actually teach you literally the end to end. I think if I'm not wrong, the duration of that course is around 40 hours. And you will be able to do the basics of the entire social media marketing, Google Analytics, activating SEO, SEM, managing your Google My Business account. So I think these courses are good enough for you to start off as a professional, and you can go ahead, and these are like free courses available also. So yeah, that is something which you can try.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Possibly now that we were talking about courses, this is the right time to introduce what Antwork does. So we are a platform where we bring the senior professionals who have industry experience to early professionals and others who want to benefit from it. So learning from practicing professionals like Sujoy who have been there and done that is at the core of our existence. And it is learning by doing. It's not the theoretical gyan that you do get. Just like Google has the courses and Facebook have courses, we have our own program on digital marketing. It is through live immersive classes that happen over the weekends. We have professionals from Google, Amazon, Netflix, multiple global brands who come and teach. To give you an example, our content marketing is taken by the marketing director of Netflix India. Google Ads, you will learn from somebody from Google. So that kind of a assembly of experts we have, and we give hands-on experience. So you will run your own Facebook ads, you will do PPC campaigns, you will create a social media strategy and everything, right? So you will learn everything about digital marketing in this program. So it's a 4-month program, a 16-week programs where you will get more than or 100 plus hours of live classes with 10 to 12 plus industry leaders from companies like Amazon, Google, Unilever, MoEngage. All of these are digital marketing names in themselves. You will get your hands dirty with the latest tools like Google Ads, Uber Suggest, RF, Canva, whatever you use, in this. Uh, so the program fee is priced at 49,999 plus GST. If you apply today, you are eligible for a discount. So please use the coupon code that is there on antwork.com/sujoyray 180721. You can register on the website. You will get and for people who want to make a career in digital marketing, who want to get into a job in digital marketing, we have our own 100% placement assistance, because we have a huge network of experts that come, collaborate, share knowledge, and also hire with us. So this is where I wanted to introduce the program. You can avail this offer today, and we will quickly go back to the Q&A session that we were having. We were having a very wonderful conversation. So I will kind of not stop that. So we'll go to the question that Enes, if you have missed the session, the recorded sessions are available on the Luma by end of the day. So you will get the recording of the session, all right, from where you registered. Sai Srinivas has a question as what are the different ways to check socially acceptable content, and whether the content that we are making is going well with my targeted audience. How do I kind of gauge that?
If you ask me, the simple answer to that question is about what is socially acceptable. I think everybody is and this is with a fair confidence I can say, and as an individual, when we are evolving as a society, I think everybody is a little open about things, and everybody is I would say uh, in a way have adapted and evolved to accept a lot of things when it comes to a POV on any content, or POV on any situation. So first thing is that do that litmus test at your own. Like, are you okay with that content? On if you read something on that is okay. Second thing is do a lot of listening. So there are a lot of listening tools which are available, and when you do the listening, you can actually gauge the sentiment which is around that topic. Once you gauge the sentiment on that topic, then accordingly you make the changes in your content so that you avoid those negative sentiments, because a slight tweak in the POV of on any content can probably make it go viral or probably give you a lot of backlash. So first thing is do your own litmus test. Second is focus on the listening, see what the consumers are saying, see what is the sentiment around that content, and that is how you can probably make or tweak things.
Yes. No, so uh, when we started off our social media campaign at Antwalk, and you don't know when you start off as to what are the things that will establish that connect, right? So we experiment. The kind of strategy that you make is that you try to experiment with a few things, keep your the listening skills, keep your eyes and ears open, all the senses open as to what are the things that you're working. And when you see that these are my arrowheads, these are the things that are establishing connect with my audience, then you start doubling down on that, right? So one thing that a lot of people, digital marketing is not like a paracetamol that you will take it and your fear will go down. It is a sustained effort, right? So it is an ongoing process. It will take some time to make an impact, create that a presence for yourself. So how should marketers sustain their momentum rather than kind of be enamored with that, I should do this today and immediately get results. These, we are all kind of, even we have demanding customers who want to get everything done yesterday. So how does a marketer kind of mentally prepare and also sustain it, this is, I think, a very relevant question.
Okay, I think you have already answered that in a way in your question, because it's not a paracetamol. It's not like one tablet which can be given and then you'll get a solution, or you'll fix a problem. See, digital marketing or content marketing is an ongoing process, and it needs a lot of resilience and patience. It doesn't happen overnight. It's like you seeing a tree grow. Like overnight you might not have results. You'll have to do things over a sustained period of time, and that is like after a significant investment of time, effort, and money, that is when you'll start seeing certain amount of results, both in terms of your business and brand scores. It's unlike a performance marketing where you know that, okay, fine, I'll invest X and immediately from day two I will probably get a ROI out of it. So that is something which is the first thing which any marketer should keep in their mind, is that it requires a lot of patience and resilience. So how you approach about it, the first thing, as I also mentioned in the initial part of my conversation, is it needs to align with your marketing and brand goal. So whatever is your marketing and brand goals are, your content marketing strategy needs to go in sync with that. So if you are a beauty brand, how you want to be seen in the personal care space, how you are addressing those trends, how you are probably talking to the consumers about the latest fashion things, or if you are a fruit brand, how you are probably creating your strategy around a recipe or formula, or how to make those quick meals. If you are a fitness brand, how you're tackling about those health and mindfulness related questions. So I think that is the first thing, where you define your content marketing strategy, which is very much in alignment with your marketing and brand goals, because that's where you want your brand to be seen. Second point is, I think the biggest one in my opinion is build capability. And when I'm saying build capability, it is about whether you want to create a in-house team to do all those digital and content marketing initiative, or you get a partner on board who will be helping you with a lot of content marketing collaterals and will support you on your day-to-day execution. Because as I mentioned, it's an ongoing process. So before you go into that journey, there is a certain amount of capability you need to build in-house, or probably get some partner on board. And then next piece is about choosing the correct content framework. And when I'm saying correct content framework, it is about what are the kind of platforms you choose, where you want to activate your content pieces becomes the key. My tip will be, don't go too niche also, and at least have a multi-platform content strategy. You don't have to be like present across all social networks, but at least choose the one or two key platforms where you want to activate your content marketing strategy. And then the next piece is about figuring out an entire content calendar, which constitute of your fixed and fluid moments. So there will be a lot of things which you will do and activate as a brand, which you know that every quarter there is a certain amount of marketing initiatives you will drive. So prepare for that, and then also prepare for some of these fluid moments which which are relevant for your brand and you want to activate them. Another piece I think as content marketing we need to be cognizant is that how you tie it up with your PR strategy, because it's not like digital marketing is one domain, PR is another domain, and then there is your mainline marketing. Everything talks the same language and everything is just one unit. And a lot of times whatever you are doing and driving on PR, because a lot of that thing is something which you earn. So your your own media strategy needs to go hand in hand, and that's why integrating your PR with your digital content marketing strategy is the thing. Another point which I would want to highlight is all about test, learn, and scale, because as I mentioned, whether you choose the correct format or the platform, you are still not sure about whatever you will be doing will be the answer to your consumer. So you need to probably play with a lot of formats, whether it is long form content, short form content, live, audio, cinemagraph, and just test them. And then depending on the kind of traction which you have got, you scale it up. And the last piece I would say in this entire content marketing journey would be focusing on partnerships. So whether you tie up with the Facebooks and Googles of the world and do something which is about co-creating and co-curating, because that will give you access to a lot of alpha and beta products, which a lot of times these big tech brands wants to launch. And if you can partner with them, you can be part of those early beta and alpha, and that will also give you an opportunity to test waters and probably leverage a new kind of technology to drive your content marketing initiatives.
So I hope, Nikita, that kind of that was from a brand perspective, that you can partnership with people. But Nikita has a question. So where do you look for the latest trends on content? And she says, thank you for the lovely session, but we'll take this question as well, though Arjun has tried his best to answer that. So where does one go to get the latest trend on the content?
If you ask me, figuring out the latest trend in content is something which every marketer aspires for. Like if you ask me, if in the morning, if I wake up and I get a couple of mails in my inbox stating that, hey, this is the latest trend, or this is going to be the next big thing in content, I think I'll be the happiest person on this world. But I think the way to look at it and figure out whatever is the latest or and in the bleeding edge, the best piece is to have a robust listening process in place, because what will it do is listening, a proper listening tool will help you understand whatever the consumers are talking about, which is very relevant to your brand or the category you are operating into. So that will give you nuggets and input about what is relevant from a content perspective, which you want to activate. Then second thing I would say is build a roster of partners who are tech oriented, because that is another thing by which I have also learned and understood. And this is, I'm talking about 4-5 years back when AR and VR was still a new thing. So it is all about scouting and building partner capability who can probably help you out with a lot of technology. So nowadays people talk about a lot of AI and chatbots and everything. So it can only happen is if you keep your windows open and always be in that prospecting mode where you kind of meet and tie up and partner with a lot of these small tech companies, do some kind of prototyping with them, test, learn, and then scale. So that is the way to be at the forefront of any kind of latest technology trend or content trend, which will be. So listening, partner capability. And I would once again want to say is that if you have a certain amount of marketing spends, and if you are a decent sized marketer, then probably channelize your media and marketing spends and objective with the big tech partners, the Googles and Facebook, because that is where you will get access to the betas and alphas. So those betas and alphas will help you activate something which is new. So rather than you scouting for something new, by partnering with them in their beta program, you will be the ones who will become the case study, and then the world will follow you. So these are the three things I would say you should look at for any technology update to stay ahead of this entire content and technology initiative.
One word that you used was the earned media. While we all understand the importance of earned media, does it happen organically, or should you possibly seed it in the beginning? And how does that get started? Or is it just your good work that speaks for you?
I would say it will be a lot of good work which will do the talking, because otherwise it will be just a mere presence on the platform. So as far as earned media is concerned, again, I would like to highlight the point is you need to be choiceful about the platforms you want to be present. So just because there are 10 social media platforms, there are some 20 podcast platforms, it doesn't have to be your place to be present. So first is choose the platform where you want to be. And again, it ties back to your marketing objectives, what your brand voice is, what you want to do. So once you have chosen that platform, second thing is that you need to consistently be present in a meaningful way. And not only that, and now this is again a challenge, this is the third point I would say, is to ensure a critical reach in your TG. I think there is some amount of paid media push you need to do, because no matter how great your content will be, the organic reach has gone down drastically over the years. So you need to be choiceful about promoting a certain piece of content in a way so that the content reaches your critical mass, and that is where the traction gets built. Because gone are the days where only on the back of good content somebody was able to probably create a big following on a Facebook page, or a big Twitter following, or a big subscriber base on YouTube. Now, with the correct piece of content, you also need to tactically choose the pieces of content which you need to promote to at least reach out to that mass, so that then there is some amount of goodwill which is there in the digital ecosystem. And that's when people will start subscribing to your channels, pages, and handles. And over a period of time, you have a significant base to drive your own media initiatives. Because again, scale is also of importance even when it comes to earned media, because otherwise what will happen is that your production cost and cost of creating that content will be way more than what is the impact that the piece of content is doing, and it will never justify the ROI.
So we are beyond the 1 hour mark. We'll have one last question, which is around repurposing content, because you were talking about the ROI on your campaigns and other things. So how important it is, especially for people or people who are starting off, companies who are small, how judicious you need to be, and how do you repurpose your content to kind of get the multiplier effect?
I think not only when it comes to content repurposing, it is not only about how probably a small firm and a small organization will do. I think even the big ones, everybody is kind of moving into a space where the focus is on, if there is a piece of content which has been created, how that piece of content can be then sliced and diced in a way so that it addresses the nuances of multiple platforms. So like there were days when brand managers used to shoot those 30-second TVCs in the horizontal format. Now, if you have a 30-second piece of content, as a digital marketer, your job is to repurpose that content to figure out how you slice it, chop it in those 3-second, 6-second bumpers, or probably repurpose them in a vertical format. And that is where the beauty of repurposing of content comes into the picture, where with the use of supers, where with the use of innovative use of cinematograph and animations, you can actually create multiple pieces of content, which then becomes relevant throughout multiple seasons. So you can shoot one basic content and start packaging it in a different way to be relevant for multiple festivals, to be relevant for multiple events or activities. And that is how you need to be approaching it. In fact, nowadays companies have become even smarter, is right at the shoot. They are focusing in creating a lot of content which can be used throughout the entire campaign duration. So the production houses are being given this mandate, is that when you are shooting a 30-second TVC, you need to figure out how you do the behind the scene, how will you do those still shots, because those still shots can go in a print ad, but if they have been captured in a certain way, it can go as Instagram stories as well. And that is how it needs to be shot. So it is like one shoot which will cater to your digital needs, because now the format, sizes and aspect ratios are very different on digital screen versus whatever your TV will be. So yeah, I think that plays a very important role. And then another thing is that introduction of AI, because now even platforms like YouTube gives you this facility where you can just upload pieces of content and it will churn out ads automatically, given the way that content piece is constructed, because the AI actually helps slice and dice the content in ways which is more engaging, which is more relevant for smaller screens. I think that is where we are now moving. So like from repurposing manually to shooting content which can be used across multiple screen, to a era where it is all about AI, and then AI is doing the slicing and dicing and kind of churning out the final output.
Awesome, Sujay. Thank you for all the great inputs you have given. I'm very sure it has been wonderful for all the people who have joined us. It was wonderful for me. I had a lot of learning myself. So we can all say thanks to Sujoy for joining and sharing his wisdom, his experience, and his learnings. And all those who have joined in, thank you for joining in. And do follow Antwork. We have, of course, we have the paid program, but we do conduct these sessions or throughout the week on the weekends. So for more digital marketing knowledge, you can follow Antwork. You can also follow Sujoy on his different LinkedIn, Instagram and Twitter, that he would be present. You can reach out to him there, and possibly you can get some advices from him personally as well. So the recorded sessions will be available on the same place where you got the event registration. So we have a Luma link. So you can go to antwork.com website and go to events. And through the events, you can go to the page where all the recordings, not just this session, but the earlier session as well. So Yogesh, thank you so much. Ramit, thank you so much. Aisha and everybody. So go to antwork.com, go to the events page. You will have all the events, prior events as well recorded there. So Sujoy, thank you so much. Thank you for your knowledge.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks Sudhanshu. Thanks Team Antwork. Thanks for having me. Have a great day, everyone.
So thank you, everybody. This is me signing off. So you all have a great Sunday. Bye.